Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to see you. Happy New Year. By the way, this is the official last day of the year that you can wish people a Happy New Year. I do not make the rules. Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzia. We got a good one lined up for you guys and gals. We will help you build some money-making lineups around the NBA and NHL and the final Monday Night Football Millie Maker of the regular season, Big Ben's final ride at Heinz Field, reportedly. But first, let's overreact to some meaty Week 17 storylines with our NFL panel, DraftKings contributors, Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich, Matt Meiselman in the house and on your screen. Congrats, Jeff, by the way.
Thank you.
You cash in your division winner tickets with the Titans, so they're back in the driver's seat for the number one seed thanks to the Chiefs losing. Tennessee can lock up that top spot with a win against the Texans next week. You got to think that they can take care of business in Houston. So the Titans plus 500 to make the Super Bowl could have some value, right, if they have one less game to play. We know Jeff likes it, but Pierce, is it an overreaction to take them in the AFC at that number?
Overreaction is being kind. How about a terrible, stupid, awful play to take the Titans to win games in the playoffs?
New year, Pierce. It's a new year. You know, you had a chance to turn over a new leaf, pal, and get on this Titans bandwagon, which is unstoppable right now. That's fine. You tell us all your favorite bet then that it's not the Titans. Go.
You had a perfect chance to get off this thing. You stuck with it when Derrick Henry went down, which was absolute crazy. I get it. We all knew that they would win this division. The division has America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, in it, Houston Texans, and a Colts team that's just good. Of course they won the division. Who doubted that? They played a soft schedule. Now the real season starts, and it's the same thing we see from the Titans every year. They have to be perfect or undefeated in January and February, and they've had better offenses and better defenses, and they failed to do that. They're often a one-and-done team. Ryan Tannehill is not going to move this team in the playoffs, throwing for $150 every game. This defense has issues. I've talked about it all season. It's fine. Throw your money away. Bet them to win the Super Bowl. I can't wait to hear Jeff throw his money away.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead. Tell us why you're throwing your money away, I guess.
I mean, my money is already thrown away, according to Pierce. I got the Titans at plus 1,400 and plus 1,000 to win the conference. And I do still like them at plus 500. Yes, they're going to get a bye. That's huge. Because, Pierce, it's simple math. They only have to win 2 games now instead of 3. And I just don't know how you don't like this team over, say, the Bills. The Titans have beat everyone in their conference. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Colts twice. What else does this team need
Patriots?
to do? Their defense is absolutely peaking at the right time. They were one of the worst in yards per pass attempt at the start of the year. Now, guess what? Well under 7 yards per attempt. They're actually above average in that. Their sack rate is going up as well. Like, Vrabel has this defense playing extremely good. And I don't care if you like Ryan Tannehill, because guess what? Derrick Henry is coming back. Plus 500 with the extra week of rest for Henry. Man, I still think there's value here.
Okay, do you agree with that, Matt?
No, I agree with Pierce. I'm going to be a little nicer about it, but I agree that the Titans are overvalued. No, Jeff does deserve credit because there was a point in the year where the Titans were kind of struggling, and then they were playing really well, and I thought it was a mirage, but they beat the Bills and they beat the Chiefs, and like there were some impressive wins in there. I don't think they've played well recently. I think the Dolphins win, sure, they played well. They've had a bunch of bad games, and just the good start they had to the year is why they wound up in this spot. They've kind of backed their way into the 1 seed. There were some games that could have gone the other direction, like against the Colts, where Carson Wentz basically just decided he didn't want to win the division this year and let the Titans win in overtime. But I just don't think this is a very good team. I think they're roughly average, and they deserve to be among the favorites because they do have this bye now, assuming they get it. But even with that, like I think the Chiefs are a much better team. I think the Bills are a better team. And I think the Patriots are enough of a better team that I'd still rather have them at longer odds. So if you ask me who's more likely between New England and Tennessee to win the AFC, I think it's close, and you're getting longer odds on Tennessee. So I don't think it's an awful bet, but there are other teams I'd rather have, to put it more nicely.
Okay.
It's so lonely over here on Titan Island. Emerson.
I was just going to say, dude, you are all by your lonesome right now. Well, after a rocky start here, guys, the Rams showed their resilience by coming from behind to defeat the Ravens on the road. You had OBJ just punching dudes in the butt, and Matt Stafford was overcoming 2 early interceptions. So LA has won 5 straight all of a sudden. The team is plus 850 to win it all. How you feeling about the Rams' chances, Jeff?
I mean, not that great. You look at the NFC. I mean, I don't know how you can pick the Rams over. How do you pick the Rams out of the Packers, Bucks, and Cowboys, and even like the Cardinals kind of grouping? I don't think there's anything that the Rams necessarily do that makes them like the clear choice there. I mean, if you're looking at the conference odds, I mean, and let's not forget, like the Rams don't even have their division wrapped up here. So you're basically kind of buying them at the peak. They still have to beat a good San Francisco team next week. And like, try and make sure that Arizona doesn't sneak it past them. So they're not even in the top position. Like they're not locked in there. If they were, it would be a bit of a different story, but I'm not sure how you take them at plus 400 to win the division versus say the Bucks, or to win the conference, versus say the Bucks or Cowboys. I just see the Rams as being like, they've got Matthew Stafford. Yeah, they can get flashy on offense, but they allow a lot of points, and they've got some bad losses on their record this year. I mean, much like the guys were talking about Tennessee, they're not sure if they're a good team. I kind of feel the same way with the Rams. Like the Rams are good, but I just don't think that they're clear head and shoulders above any of the other teams in the NFC for me to want to take them.
Okay, Matt, what do you think here, man? That was a week after a grueling stretch. It featured 4 games here in 21 days, all of them victories despite injuries and COVID-19 issues. So have the Rams showed you enough like resilience here to potentially bet them to win the whole thing?
I'm on the same page because I think before this stretch, everyone was down on the Rams, and to say that they were in the mix to win the Super Bowl would have been nuts. Like, I don't think anyone really thought that they had what it took at that point. And now, after playing well for a month, I think they're just right back in it with everyone else. So the Packers are the rightful favorite. And then after them, I do think it's kind of just a toss-up between everyone else. And the Rams are second in odds. So I just think that's just where they deserve to be. I think I'd probably rather take a little bit longer odds on the Cowboys. I do think the Rams have a better shot than Tampa Bay right now, just with all the receivers that Tampa's missing, and it clearly is affecting them. Maybe Mike Evans gets back to 100%, and that's enough for Brady. But I think it makes sense the Rams are the second favorite in the NFC. Maybe I'd put the Cowboys ahead, but like they're in the mix. I'm not especially excited about them, so I know this is like kind of lukewarm take, but I think the Rams are all right, and they do have a chance.
All right, Pierce, Rams certainly rank among the hottest teams in the NFL right now, but we know they're far from flawless. We kind of saw some of that yesterday.
I don't know if being hot in the NFL really says much when we look at some of these watered-down teams. I mean, if the Titans are the best team in the AFC, if half the league is led by the Titans, that's not a good look. And so if you're winning a bunch of games recently, I guess they're winning. That's great. They have looked shaky, as Jeff has mentioned, but the NFC is the real deal. There's too many good teams for the Rams to get through there. If the Rams were in the AFC, yeah, I would take plus 900 in a second. We would all guarantee them as locked to be in the Super Bowl, but they've got to get through some really good teams that all can get better. The Rams could improve or they could get worse. Same could be said for all the teams that were mentioned, like the Cardinals and the Cowboys and the Buccaneers. I trust those teams a lot more. What this Rams team feels like to me is a lot like those Andy Dalton Bengals teams that had a lot of weapons on offense, defense, and would look really great one moment and then just lay eggs and then go into the playoffs and be duds. And we've seen that from Stafford before, 0-3 in the playoffs. I would not be surprised to see him just not live up to the stage.
I mean, Sunday's going to be huge because the 49ers just need to win to make the playoffs, but they're the ones facing the Rams who still need a win to take the division. The Saints, though, somehow stay in the hunt with a win over the Panthers, but they need the LA team to beat San Francisco. How much interest do you have in the Saints to make the playoffs at plus 110, Matty?
That seems like the fair line, honestly. Like, they are just below 50-50 in my opinion. So yeah, that's a tough call. Like the Falcons are eliminated, so that does give the Saints an easier shot, but we'll have to see, right? Like maybe the Falcons don't want to play any of their veterans this week. Maybe Matt Ryan doesn't play. And if that's the case, then the Saints get a lot more interesting, because if you knew that the Saints were going to win, then all they need is the 49ers to lose, and then they're good. So I think this is one to watch throughout the week, because the Falcons could have a lot that dictates what's going on here. Maybe they want to play spoiler, maybe they don't really care. And then the Rams potentially may decide that they don't really care about this game either, because they're 2 or 3 regardless, and maybe that just doesn't matter to them too much. So I think a lot could change in terms of what these coaches decide. And for now, I'll say this is the fair line, but as information comes out throughout the week, the Saints could look really good or really bad depending on how these other teams decide to use their players. The teams that don't have as much to play for as the Saints and 49ers do.
All right, Pierce, again, Saints get into the playoffs with a win over the Falcons and a 49ers loss to the Rams. 2 very possible outcomes.
Well, let me play off of what Matt just said, and it's that we're going to have to watch this throughout the week. You mean I'm going to have to pay attention to the 49ers and Saints and the Eagles throughout the week? I'm going to have to pay attention to these terrible teams, and then I'm also going to have to pay attention to the other teams that may just rest their players. Nah, I'm good. I'm not going to pay attention to any of them. I'm just going to punt completely. I'm not dealing with this question. It's fair,
Okay.
but you're going to have to do a lot of homework for some really bad teams in some really bad games. I would rather bet on something else.
And then, Jeff, it's likely going to be, Trey Lance under center again for the 49ers? I mean, that wasn't the hottest performance yesterday.
It wasn't, but I mean, they got the W, right? I mean,
Yep.
I think the San Francisco team is good enough that I actually think you're getting a little bit of value just to bet them on the money line next week at plus 175. I'd be worried if you're taking the Saints. I'd be worried about the Rams' motivation here too. I think that's going to be a big factor here. If you're interested in taking the Saints or you're just not in on the 49ers because of Lance, you need to make sure you need to read the tea leaves here about what Sean McVay is going to do, because I could see him kind of just pulling the rug out on this one. He is sort of a forward-thinking head coach. You might just say, I'd rather have a week of rest than worry about winning the division. I think the 49ers are a good bet, and that's the side I'd rather be on personally. Just take them on the money line to win next week at plus 175. It feels like the Saints have one win in the last 2 months. I don't even know how they're in this position. So I think Atlanta actually comes to play. It's a division win. They're probably going to start Matt Ryan because they always start Matt Ryan in these spots, and they'll probably be up to play for it, maybe even more so than the Rams on the other side. So yeah, Pierce is right. It's a situation where, man, you're going to have to really just watch the news cycle and stuff this week. But I kind of like just taking the San Francisco side. They have the most to play for. They control their own destiny. And you're kind of buying low on a low sentiment on Trey Lance.
Yeah, Chargers and Raiders are two other teams here too, Jeff, who control their own destiny. They're going to collide in Week 18. It's a win and end showdown on Sunday in the Sin City. Right now, which way are you leaning in this game, Jeff?
I just take the plus money with the Raiders. I just take the team that's being undervalued at home here. I do think the Chargers are probably the slightly better team, but I don't think that they're the better team over Vegas by 3 points on the road, to be favored by 3 points on the road. I think that's just an overreaction. I think Derek Carr is a competent quarterback, and we've seen the Chargers. I mean, they gave up 190 yards to Travis Kelce. The Raiders can move the ball. They have some weapons with Hunter Renfrow. I think at the very least, this game probably comes down to the last possession. I don't think the Chargers have a defense that are just going to blow out or shut out the Raiders. So I just take the +3 or maybe even the money line on the Raiders.
Okay, Pierce, Chargers, yes to make the playoffs, -150, no, +120.
I would take yes. I'd go even higher. I would see what are the odds for them to win the AFC, maybe even win the Super Bowl. I'm not a big Chargers fan. I've said plenty of times that they're fraudulent, but they have the weapons. If they could just piece everything together, they are a team that could get hot offensively and really do some damage throughout the playoffs. They have the weapons, the receivers, the running backs. They have the quarterback. Their defensive scheme sometimes blows up in their face by giving up too many rushing yards, but it is a bend but don't break defense, so that can work. We saw them go to Cincinnati, take advantage of some turnovers, and win some big games. If any team is a long shot that could get hot, it would definitely be the Chargers.
Okay, so Chargers right now to win the AFC +1,600 on the DK Sportsbook. Yeah. To win the Super Bowl, they're +3,500. Maddie, to make playoffs, let's look at the Steelers side here. No, -125. Yes, +105.
Yeah, I think that the Raider side. Yeah, I got confused for a sec. I think
I know. It's a lot of numbers. It's betting, I know.
I was looking at the Steelers, they're still in it, but I'm going to take no if those are the odds. I think that both of these guys have alluded to kind of what I'm thinking, where the Raiders and the Chargers are just both really, really inconsistent. And I have no idea I could see either team winning by 3 touchdowns in this game, even though it's supposed to be this game where it's close and it's for the playoffs and everything's on the line and it's going to be a good football game, right? How many times have we expected a good game where just one team doesn't show up? But I also think, the Chargers could make a run to the Super Bowl because they just have so much talent. They're just really bad at utilizing their talent, it seems, at least this year, and their defense is really bad most of the time. I think the Chargers probably win. I think 3 is probably too high of a line, but I really think this game can go any number of ways just because these are two probably of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I meant Raiders, no, -125, and yes, +105. Because Steelers, no, -10,000. Much, much different there. Jamar Chase, guys, leaping back in to the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year on the DraftKings Sportsbook following his monster game against the Chiefs. That was 11 catches, team record 266 yards, had 3 stinking touchdowns, also sets the receiving yards record by a rookie in a single season. Still 1 game to go. Mac Jones had been the favorite recently. He tossed 3 touchdowns of his own yesterday, but that was against America's team. So did Chase lock it up? Or is plus 175 for Jones still something to consider here, Jeff?
No, this one's over.
Okay.
These awards are all what have you done for me lately? And lately, Jamar Chase has done everything. Now he's going to be credited with winning the division. He's credited for the Cincinnati Bengals turning it around. It was the smart choice. He's proven everyone wrong. Everyone's saying, draft an O-lineman, protect Joe Burrow's knee. Guess what? Joe Burrow's knee is just fine. What he needed was an offensive weapon downfield to actually take advantage of one of the best deep balls in the game. Jamar Chase has done that. This one's done. There's no value in Mac Jones because Jamar Chase is going to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he was smoking a fat stogie again inside the locker room, dancing, enjoying himself. Matt, is this race over, or would you consider Mac Jones plus 175?
No, I think because of the way the NFL made their schedule actually for Week 18, this one's over because there was a scenario where the Bengals didn't need to play any of their starters, and that would have been if they had a later game than the teams ahead of them, like the Titans and Chiefs, and they were just locked into their seed. Then maybe they rest Burrow, they rest Chase, but they're still playing for something. So we'll probably get another good game out of Jamar Chase. I think we would have needed him to have a week off while Mac Jones did something crazy, and that would have given it to Jones. At this point, I think it's pretty close to over. I don't want to say it's 100%, but I actually do still think there's value on the Chase side. He most likely wins, but something could happen this week where Chase has a bad game and Jones throws for 5 touchdowns, and then that would probably bring it to around 50-50. Like, it would take a lot for Chase to not win at this point.
Okay, what do you think it would take, Pierce, for Chase to not win right now?
There's one rare chance that maybe, just maybe, the voters that give out this award use a little bit more common sense and give it to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has gone for over 1,000 yards, only second tight end in history. I mean, that's a pretty big deal for a rookie tight end to go for over that number. If he's healthy again this week, we're going to need him to be healthy. He can break the all-time tight end receiving record. He could put up a monster game. Why not give him the ball? But you also look at what you've got Higgins, you've got Boyd, you got Mixon, you got Joe Burrow. Kyle Pitts has put up these numbers with Matt Ryan at quarterback. They haven't had an offensive line in years. There aren't any other weapons on that team. So defense is focused on Kyle Pitts, and yet he still has put up a really solid. I mean, it's an all-time season. So, I mean, I think he's the better player, honestly, but I don't think the voters do.
I mean, incredible performance week in and week out here. Guys, thank you so much for the help. We're going to look ahead to tonight's showdown between the Browns and the Steelers coming up. But right after this quick break, we'll help you build those NBA lineups. 10 games tonight on the slate. We got 10 games around the NBA tonight, and here to help you with some building blocks, who to stuff inside your lineups, we got DraftKings contributors Nick Fryer, Matt Meiselman back with us. Again, NBA building blocks. Let's start with guard. Which guard are you building your DFS lineups around, Nick?
John Morant was the first guy I was looking at today because he's going up against the Nets. But then I started paying attention to the Washington-Charlotte game because Bradley Beal has done well without Spencer Dinwiddie in the lineup. And we know the Hornets aren't exactly a strong defensive team, and I think Bradley Beal's got to be the guy you go with tonight. I know he's going to be a popular play because his usage rate hikes up over 30% without Dinwiddie on the floor. The Hornets are 28th in defensive efficiency, and they're second in pace. So this is a game, you look at the total too. It is sky high over on DraftKings Sportsbook. But Bradley Beal he delivers when Dinwiddie's not in the lineup. 3 consecutive games with 55 plus DK fantasy points. And then Charlotte, too, is allowing the second most DK fantasy points to the shooting guard position, too. I know Beal's handling the ball a little bit more right now, especially with his usage rate up. But still, I like this guy a lot tonight at 10.4K.
Hey, Matty, who do you like at guard tonight?
Beal's probably one of the 2 chalk guards that I think really, you kind of just have to have. The other one's Anthony Simons, who's just way too cheap. And normally I would say when Damian Lillard doesn't play, you get a much lower scoring game because the Blazers play some guys who just kind of walk the ball up the court, and then they have some bigs, but they don't have that. And they're also playing the Hawks, who have Trae Young back, but not much else. And that sets up to be really, really problematic defensively. And we've seen that in recent games. So Simons is only 4,100. He probably starts at point guard. There's a ton of usage for him. It's really hard to see him playing without injury, foul trouble, minutes limited, some kind of thing like that, because it's a really, really good matchup, and he's way underpriced. So I kind of think you just lock him in.
All right, cool. Is there a forward you would consider building your lineups around, Matt?
Yeah, I'll just stick to the same theme because Norman Powell is virtually in the same situation. He's 6,500, which I think could mean that he's not quite as popular. We're going to see a lot of value on this slate. There's a lot of guys not playing, as is the case basically every day in the NBA right now. The Clippers are probably the main team where you see a lot of the chalk play is someone like Marcus Morris, maybe more popular than Norman Powell. But I feel like, especially if you decide you don't want to play Simons because he's 80% or something like that, you're going to need someone on Portland, because with this matchup against the Hawks, someone has to produce here. The chances that the Blazers just only score 90 points tonight, I really don't think that's realistic. So I'd probably just go with Powell and Simons, but certainly at least one of those 2 guys.
Yeah, and even with Lillard in the lineup lately, he's been averaging 32 fantasy points per game there. Nick, what about you? A forward you would consider building your lineups around?
Norman Powell is the guy for me as well
Yep.
tonight too, because when you look at his usage rate, when Lillard, Nurkic, and McCollum are not on the floor this season, he leads the team as you would expect in usage rate. It's all the way up to 36%. And then the Hawks are one of the least efficient teams on the defensive end this season, bottom 10. I think they were 22nd. So yeah, this one's kind of a no-brainer. As much as his price maybe could deter some people, I just think this is a game where you're going to see points scored, and someone's got to do it for the Blazers, and Powell should be the guy too.
Yeah, with Atlanta 27th in defensive efficiency, too. Can you build your lineup around a center, Nick?
Yeah, I'm actually going to stay in this game. This is probably one of my favorite ones tonight. Matt hit on one of the other guys I do want to talk about later, but when we're talking about center, I'm going to go on the other side of this matchup with Clint Capella at 8.5K going up against the Blazers. No John Collins. Doesn't impact his usage rate this season, and there's a small sample size with that, but still, you would think he's going to get more scoring chances, more rebounding opportunities especially. And when you look at what's happened since Collins has been out, he had Capella had 22.25 DK fantasy points on Christmas Day with Collins in the lineup. Next game, 34. Next game, 42.75. And then last game, 61.25. So there's a little bit of a trend there. So with no Collins, he's a guy you got to look to. And with Yusuf Nurkic, he's doubtful tonight. He's been out. Unless that goes to questionable, then okay, maybe it makes Capella a little bit less appealing. But still, I think offense has got to come from somewhere in this game besides Trae Young. And if Nurkic is out, no one's going to be stopping Capella.
Yeah, maybe he's not that overly popular given his season high in salary. Matt, what about you? How about a center you like?
I think there's one center with massive, really massive upside tonight that no one's going to want to play, and it's because of blowout risk with Joel Embiid. So I think Capella's a good call. I think there are other centers kind of in that range that people will want to play. And then if you're going to pay up, you just take Jokic, right? Because he's playing the Mavericks. That should be a close game. Jokic is basically just great against anyone. It doesn't really matter who the opponent is. But Embiid has a better matchup against the Houston Rockets. The problem is the 76ers are favored by 13 points right now. And if there's a blowout, he probably doesn't top 50. But if this game ends up staying close, and one thing to watch is Matisse Thybulle is questionable. He's the best defensive player on the Sixers, one of the best defensive players in the NBA, or at least non-Embiid defensive players. I should make that caveat. But if Thybulle's not there, better chance the game stays close. And it's just if the Sixers don't play well defensively tonight and the Rockets score some points and keep up, Embiid is going to have to do a lot more. So I think there's huge upside for him at which should be really low ownership.
Matt, who's the value play right now to make sure you get inside your lineup?
So we mentioned a lot of these Portland and Washington guys. So I'm going to go off the board a little to a situation where we don't really have, we definitely don't have news yet, but I think there's a chance that the Heat, despite playing in what would be a big game ordinarily in Golden State, I think there's a chance that at least a guy or two sits for them. This is their third game in 4 nights. They were in Sacramento last night. They actually lost the game. It was a close game. All their starters had to play big minutes. Butler has been back for 2 games and has had to play a lot in both of them. If, let's say, Butler or Lowry sits, you could get some really cheap Miami guys, like, let's say, Caleb Martin, 4,700, Nick Stauskas, 3K. Like, I can't believe we're talking about him. But the Heat are really thin already, and if they end up deciding they want to rest someone just because this is a Western Conference game, it doesn't really matter for them for playoff implications. It's just, it's cool to face Steph Curry. That's really the only reason this game matters for them. If they go that route, this could open up a lot of value on this team.
And I know every day on the DK Playbook, Zach Thompson has a nice little piece with some of the top values on the slate. He's been hitting a lot of his picks lately. Nick, what about you, man? Who's a good value play tonight?
Yeah, Anthony Simons was the guy that I was looking at before, and I know Matt's talked about him quite a bit. And I know he's not listed on the injury report, but this is his first day back. If you have any apprehension about him, or for some reason he is a late scratch, because we've seen plenty of those around the league this season for various reasons. If he's late scratch, Dennis Smith Jr. is a guy who I would like in this without Simons, because there were 3 games where he got heavy minutes before his stretch that he was out, and he returned 5 times value. And each of those games was like 37, 39, 42 minutes. So he's going to, in when you have no Simons and then the other 3 big guys for Portland off the floor, Smith Jr. has one of the highest usage rates on the team, second to only, Norman Powell.
Nick, let's go Slater-proof pick. Let's go to the DK Sportsbook for this one. So give me your favorite bet to build your betting card around.
Yeah, so there were a few games that I was looking at, and then I saw some of the totals, and I was like, okay, I can't go anywhere near this. It was the Nets game, the Washington and Hornets game. As much as for DFS purposes, you can have some value there, but I like the Piston-Bucks game going over on that one, 225.5 points for that one. The Bucks have been cooking gas lately. They've scored over 127 points in each of the past 3 games. The overs hit the last 4 games. And I know Detroit, too, one of the least efficient teams on the defensive end, but they're also 9th in pace, and they've hit the over in 3 of their last 4 games. But if you're looking for a little extra value, go with Bradley Beal to get a double-double tonight. It's at plus 120 last I checked, going up against the Hornets again. Talked about it, how he's been doing great without Spencer Dinwiddie. He's coming off back-to-back double-doubles. For me, this is the best value one you can get tonight.
Matty Meiselman, bring us home.
Yeah, so my favorite bet looking at this last night was Golden State for their home game against Miami. Like I mentioned, I think Miami has a shot to rest some players. That line's moved from 9 up to 11 already. Maybe that's an indication that there's a chance for rest there. So even as double-digit favorites, if, let's say, Butler and or Lowry decide to rest tonight, the Warriors would be favored probably by 15+ in that game. So I'd be looking there. And then also, there's a small chance that we get Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell back tonight. Minnesota's +4 against the Clippers on the road. They had a tough loss against the Lakers last night, but obviously no travel there. They're just playing again in the same spot, in the same stadium. So I think the Wolves at +4 are interesting regardless, but if they get one of those 2 guys back, I think both are questionable for conditioning. Maybe they haven't cleared protocols yet, but they're expected to. They just may still be out for conditioning. I still like the Wolves either way, but if they get one of those guys back, then they'd probably even wind up favored in this game. So this could be one to watch. Those are the 2 latest games on the slate, so watching for news is going to be critical there.
All right, Nick, Matt, appreciate you guys. Thanks for the help with all the NBA lineup advice. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk the Monday Night Football Showdown, the final Monday Night Football game of the season between the Browns and the Steelers. And yes, there's a Millie Maker that you guys need to get in. It's going to be an emotional night at Heinz Field as it is expected to be Big Ben's final game, final home game in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. They're going to be playing their AFC North rival, the Cleveland Browns. A little showdown talk right now. For $20, by the way, you can get inside our final Monday Night Football Millie Maker of the regular season tonight. DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich are back, AJ Scholes in the house as well. So the Browns ended the Steelers season in the AFC wildcard round last year. Can they do it again with the Monday Night Football spotlight shining bright on them? Who are you putting in your captain spot, AJ?
Well, for me, I think it comes down to the running backs for the captain spot. I'm going to skip over Nick Chubb only because he's slightly more expensive than Najee Harris, who's going to cost you $16.2. Look, I usually avoid trying to pay up to the top of the price range for the captain. It definitely makes it harder to build out the rest of your lineup. But I think this is poised to be a low-scoring, ground-and-pound game. The quarterback play from neither team has been really very good of late. So I do think you have to reach up for the top and take one of these running backs. Like I said, for me, I go with Harris only because he's just slightly cheaper. Maybe a little bit more of a workload for him, too.
Yeah, and I know he's had some tough sledding recently, but I'm looking at his card here. He's still just 2 games removed from scoring 25 and a half DK fantasy points. Jeff, what direction are you going in? I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday on the Sweat.
I think that you can get a little bit crazy here. I mean, this is a game where they're just playing for nothing. And I think I like this spot for Nick Chubb. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a weak rush defense, but there's no reason for him to play in this game. The Cleveland Browns ultimately as an organization, this is their best offensive player. If they give him 20 touches, I mean, it's literally criminal. Like, they should be brought up on charges here. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I think you could even think about rostering D'Ernest Johnson in the captain spot. But I do like going to the Pittsburgh Receivers. I like going to Chase Claypool. I mean, this is a dude who he's got 1 touchdown on the year. If we like Ben Roethlisberger to have a bit of a narrative game, a bit of a throwback, why can't Chase Claypool get in the end zone a couple times here? I mean, he's the biggest guy, the guy who's going to get the secondary coverage. I like Deontay Johnson too, but again, I think you need to think about this showdown just a little bit differently. I think you're going to see some weird players pop up tonight, and I think Claypool, I know he does dances after he gets first downs and stuff, but he's got to put he's got motivation to at least just do something positive to end his season, because it's been a pretty terrible follow-up to a good rookie year for Chase Claypool. I like him. I like captaining tonight. I think he could surprise.
Pierce, this is a gotta-have-it game for really both Baker Mayfield and Ben Roethlisberger. I believe you said you love Narrative Street. Big Ben yesterday, right, was your favorite DFS play in this one? Is that who you're going to captain?
Yeah, I mean, are we trying to get some clicks for these videos or what? We
Yeah,
gotta
baby.
play Ben Roethlisberger in this spot. If you want to dismiss the narratives, I get it, but this is one day, one moment where it's crazy to completely dismiss the narrative. This is his last game at home, and Jeff mentions that no one's playing for anything, and he's right. Most of the people aren't playing for anything, but Ben Roethlisberger is, and he's going to go out there and play, and it looks like not only should the Browns not give the ball to Chubb, they should rest him. You see this line change from the Steelers being plus 3.5 to now being favorites. That's the sportsbook telling us they think a lot of the Browns are not going to play. Their defense has been limited all week. They've been dealing with injuries all season. I would not be surprised to see Myles Garrett not suit up, Jadeveon Clowney. They've already got several defensive players already out. We could get Ben Roethlisberger throwing the ball 50, 60 times against a defense that's resting people. It reminds me of Kobe's last game where he scored 60 points.
Yep.
We shot the ball 50 times. Roethlisberger will probably need Tommy Johns after this game.
And listen, they remain on life support right now, like the playoff hopes of the Steelers, but still mathematically in this thing. What about value? Who's your favorite value playing the showdown contest, Pierce? This is where guys like you and Jeff really shine.
Yeah, well, I think Jeff and I are going to be on the same spot here, too. If you like Roethlisberger, you like the receivers, and the way to make it work is you just take one of these cheap receivers. If there's going to be a ton of volume from Roethlisberger, then Ray McCloud is going to be a possibility. He's played over 58% of the snaps in 5 of the last 6 games, 20, 30 routes per game in those games. Look, it's not pretty. His stat log, his game log is not pretty at all. But if the volume is going to be there like Narrative Street is demanding, then you play him, and he allows you to put in Roethlisberger. He allows you to get Deontay Johnson. You can even run it back with Baker Mayfield, who, like you just mentioned, he's got to prove something as well. So Ray McCloud unlocks all those guys.
All right, what direction you going in here, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, and Pierce alluded to it perfectly. Like, this line is telling us something, man. I mean, some of these guys just aren't going to play. I wouldn't, like, I'm a little bit surprised that Baker Mayfield is even starting. He's been having brutal injury issues all year with the shoulder and things like that. I think the Ernest Johnson is a great value at under 5K. I think you're going to see a bigger workload at the very least. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is another value around 5K that, again, if we think that Pittsburgh is scoring here, I mean, he should get a few targets. He's averaging 6 targets over his last 3 games. He's kind of their downfield weapon. And if Cleveland is behind, they're going to be passing the ball a little bit more. So I think there's tons of players in this 5K range that are super viable tonight. David Njoku's another one. But I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think he's a good comeback play, too. If you're going to stack the Steelers' offense, you come back with him, you get that one long touchdown, or maybe just even a volume play. Either way, he's too cheap.
Yeah, again, Browns, Broncos, Dolphins all eliminated by the Chargers beating the Broncos yesterday. AJ, how about you, dude? Favorite value?
Well, I do like the Johnson consideration, but I don't think we're ready to rule out Kareem Hunt totally from being able to play in this game. And if he does, that's the route I go. Even if we do see some Nick Chubb here, they'll break it up a little bit. Hunt has actually been a bigger factor in the passing game throughout the season. So I do think Hunt has some really good value at 5,500 if he's in the game. But otherwise, like I said, I'm expecting more ground and pound, at least from the Cleveland side. Maybe these guys have a point about Big Ben. But if no Hunt, no Chubb, then, yeah, I agree with Jeff here and D'Ernest Johnson.
All right, so from all reports here, we've seen it consistently and constantly all over the internet. Like, this is likely going to be Big Ben's last home game. Are we going to see the Steelers air it out, like for Ben or Mayfield? Like, what's a quarterback prop that you guys like tonight, Jeff?
I mean, I think just going over on Big Ben's touchdown props is fine. I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't give him multiple chances inside the red zone to do that. He's plus 100 to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think that's great value. Again, I think we're going to get a Cleveland Browns defense. It's not really at 100% anyways. And I think this game could just get out of control at some point. I mean, we mentioned guys like Kareem Hunt. I just don't know what the motivation here is for Cleveland to play these guys in the second half. So I think that going over on Big Ben's touchdown prop, again, if you're really focusing just on his singular props, just on Ben, go over the 1.5 touchdowns, because Pittsburgh's not a good rushing team anyways, and the one thing the Browns do and probably will do good tonight is bottle up the runs. So, yeah, if you like Pittsburgh, and again, they switched to favorites, and you like Big Ben, that's great value. You're getting a plus 100.
All right, Pierce could also get after the over half an interception prop.
How dare you?
Actually, I probably won't go in that route, given that Cleveland, they've already got several of their guys in the secondary are out. Others I don't think are going to play. They've had a good secondary this season in Cleveland, but I just don't think they're going to suit up. And if they do, I believe that they're going to be limited. We also have reason to believe that their pass rush is going to be limited. So I don't even know if I would go with that interception route, but I'm definitely going to go with over 234.5 passing yards. I just don't see the last game in Pittsburgh handing the ball off to 3 yard per carry Najee Harris all game. And if anyone needs rest, it's Harris. The workload they've given him in his rookie season, we already talked about it was criminal to get Chubb out there running and wearing him down in a meaningless game. Why wear down Najee Harris any more than you already have? You need to save this guy. He's probably he's basically your future. So why go out there and burn him out? I mean, you don't even need an offensive coordinator tonight. Here's what's going to happen. It's going to be Ben Roethlisberger audibling into shotgun and passing every single down.
Yep. I love it. I love you mentioned he's going to need Tommy John after this. He's going to throw the ball 90 times. AJ, is there a quarterback prop you like tonight?
Well, actually, Emerson, you hit on it. It's the interception prop, I think, for both guys. And look, if Ben comes out and he's throwing 90 times or even 50 times, like, one of them's going to somebody else on the other team. There's just no chance. If you really think he's going to throw the ball that many times, there's almost no chance he doesn't throw an interception here. You get him at even money to throw a pick. I like Mayfield as well at minus 135 to throw one here. Had a really bad last game and has struggled all year with interceptions. So I do think both of those are in play tonight.
All right, let's go outside of the quarterbacks. How about another player prop that you have your eye on for the final Monday Night Football game of the regular season? Pierce.
Sorry, but I'm going to go right back to the quarterbacks. And I'll go parlay, though, so I'll spice it up a little bit.
Cool.
Take Roethlisberger over and take Baker Mayfield over 223. He's got to prove something. He wants to keep his job, or at least wants to prove that he can get another job. And Cleveland in the situation, what do they need to see from Chubb? Nothing. They know what they have. They don't need him to go out there and run a bunch. They need to see what Baker Mayfield has. Or I think Jeff kind of alluded to this. Maybe they just want him to go out there and let him get banged up because they don't want him anymore. Maybe they want him to look bad. Either way, I could see Baker Mayfield getting plenty of passing opportunities against the Pittsburgh pass defense. That's not very good either. I think both these passing totals are just way too low, and you should parlay them together.
All right, AJ, what direction do you want to go in here?
Well, I'm going to look at some receiving yard totals here, and I do think a couple guys could be in play here. Jarvis Landry, the total is set at 48.5. You can get the over there at -110. I like that option. Jeff mentioned Chase Claypool, and his total is only at 40.5 right now. Again, you can get him over at -110. Look, really, it depends what you're expecting out of this game, passing or rushing. I'm still a little bit, more favorable that we're going to see a ground game here. But maybe these guys are swaying me. And if they're swaying you as well, look at some of those receiving yard totals because they're pretty low, all things considered.
Jeff, Nick Chubb, plus 550 to score the first touchdown tonight.
I'm not betting on the Browns. Thanks, though. Baker Mayfield to throw an interception, -140. Yeah, they're going to march him out there. He's going to be under pressure all night against a motivated defense. Give me a break. The guy threw 4 picks last week. And, I mean, he's just not 100%. I don't even care what your take on Baker Mayfield is. It's a tough spot. He's probably going to throw at least 1 pick. Also, touchdown props. There's some big numbers you can get on the first touchdown score of this.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Receivers is where you got to look. Plus 1,600 for Claypool, plus 1,600 for Freiermuth. But I like going big, Emerson. You know me. Plus 3,500 for James. I cannot tell a lie. Washington. Just go for it. Ben's going to throw a couple of touchdowns here.
Also, I just had it up, but I lost it. I think the Steelers defense, that's some pretty good odds too for it, or Browns defense, Steelers defense. They both got some pretty good odds for anytime scores tonight. Let's go slate approved pick, guys. Favorite bet this evening, Jeff?
I mean, there's just so many Ben Roethlisberger props that I want to take. I'll just go simple, and I'll go Ben to throw over 1.5 touchdown passes. It's plus 100. I'm actually shocked that you're getting plus money on it in this narrative situation. Again, the line has flipped. Pittsburgh's now the favorite. They're saying they're going to score a decent amount of points. I'm going to take that.
AJ, what about you, dude?
I'm going to look at the alternate line on the Steelers here. Yeah, you could go with just a -3 and get -105 value here. And that's an okay spot to be in, especially if you want that push. But for me, I'll go a little bit heavier. I think they could win by more than a field goal here. So I'll look at Steelers -4.5. I get plus 115 value on that. Good spot to be in. But really any of those, kind of in between the 3, maybe even all the way up to 7 if you want to take a little bit more risk, but you can get really good value on those alternate lines.
All right, Pierce, what about you?
Steelers money line. On the Sunday show, I said take the Steelers and take the points or take the money line. It's switched since then. I would recommend people go to DK Nation, check out Reed T. Fowler's trends article, scroll down to the Pittsburgh section, and the Pittsburgh numbers over the years, especially with Ben Roethlisberger against the Browns, are pretty dominant. So you got to be on the Steelers side for this.
Hey, guys, before you take off, just a quick bonus question for you. We didn't get to it in the first block of the show, but Jeff, everything that happened with AB yesterday, and now it's like another weapon that Tom Brady has lost, has that impacted at all, I guess, like your approach to maybe some futures bets with the Bucs, whether it's to win the conference or even the Super Bowl?
It's a tough spot to bet the Bucs right now. You're really not getting that big of value on them. We talked about where the Rams are. The Rams are now, smaller or bigger favorites than the Bucs to win the conference. But I just don't think that the Bucs have fallen enough. I mean, you can get the Cowboys at bigger odds. I think the loss of AB is big. I think we're all still okay. The Bucs are going to be okay. They've got Antonio Brown. They've got Gronk. They've got a couple nice receivers like Miller and Tyler Johnson. But now there's no Antonio Brown. It's just Mike Evans. Teams are just going to be able to shadow Mike Evans. I don't like the spot for the Buccaneers going into the playoffs at all. They're a team they'd have to fade, a lot further back in the odds for me to be interested.
All right, well, now I'm being yelled at by producer Drew because we're tight on time. So, Pierce and AJ, it was great talking to you guys. Actually, AJ, stick around because you and Paul will help us with some NHL right after this. All right, putting the show on ice to bring us home here on the first Monday of 2022. Our NHL panel, RotoWire's AJ Schultz, he is back. Paul Bruno, welcome. Happy New Year, you two. One game tonight around the National Hockey League. So we're doing some opening face-offs. So hook us up with your favorite DFS showdown plays and DK Sportsbook bets for Edmonton and DOS Rangers. Let's talk showdown here first. Tell me who you're going to put in your captain spot. Are you going to pay all the way to 17-1 for Conor McDavid, Paul?
You know what? On a one-game slate, Emerson, I pivot from that obvious choice because the right contrarian play could really pay off. And I look at the home side's lineup tonight, and I choose Mika Zibanejad. I think he's going to be a low ownership situation coming off a hat trick last night. But remember, he's their top sniper, and Panarin's not going to be suiting up tonight. He scored a hat trick yesterday, in fact, against the Lightning. And that's going to cause a lot of people to move away because they think, how can he do it again? But he's done it before, putting back-to-back hat tricks together. And he's known as a very streaky goal scorer who's actually among the NHL's top 10 shooters in the league over the last 3 years. So I'll gladly pay to get him for $12,900 tonight.
AJ, what's your strategy here?
Well, my strategy is to stop sharing my notes with Paul because, I'm on Mika Zibanejad today as well. And I do think, 14 points in his last 13 games. Half of those have come with the man advantage. There's just too many good reasons to use him. Now, I will say I did just see a little bit ago Conor McDavid not on the ice for the start of practice. I don't want to panic anybody. I haven't seen any confirmation as to why. It could be something simple. But if he's out, I might consider paying up for Leon Draisaitl here because he's going to need to carry that team even more. So just something to watch as we get through Oilers practice as news comes out after that. If McDavid's out, I might pivot to use Draisaitl.
AJ, would you consider putting a goalie in your showdown lineup?
Not a chance. Not in this one. For me, I almost never touch the Oilers netminders because they're guys that don't have to really be that good. They have that offense. They can just be okay. Mike Smith is injured again, so likely Mikko Koskinen. And then you've got the Rangers coming in off the back of the back-to-back. If it was Shesterkin tonight, I might consider it. But again, with the back-to-back, no confirmation yet, but likely going to be Georgiev there going for them. He's riding a 3-game losing streak, so I'm not paying up for either goalie in this one. Could be a high-scoring affair. Stay
away spot for you as well, Paul?
No, I think I'm going to take Georgiev. I'm looking for the win, and that's always good points. So this guy's been very steady with 5 quality starts in his last 6 outings, allowing 2 or less in those appearances. That's the real luxury that the Rangers have, a backup that can limit opponents and really give his team a chance to win. Back-to-back games at home are also not a big problem. In fact, if you ask most players, they'd rather play back-to-back than rather than practice after a game. So I don't think that's a big deal. And they took out the tougher opponent of the two yesterday with a shutout win over Tampa. The Oilers have only 2 wins in their last 10 games, too. That's worth mentioning. And I agree with a lot of the other stuff AJ said. But I do think I want to be on the winning goaltender tonight. I think that's Georgiev.
All right, Paul, help us out with a value play then.
Well, I know I shied away from McDavid earlier, but I will include his projected left winger, assuming that McDavid plays. Zach Hyman is on the books for $11,700 tonight. The Oilers captain, I might add, has 34 assists versus 19 goals, reminding everyone that he's more likely to set up goals rather than score them. So that helps Hyman's case even more. I expect more of the same tonight and capitalize here with one of his line mates who will also join him on their top power play unit.
Okay, AJ, value.
I'm going to stick with the Rangers' top line here and number 1 power play, which means Capo Caco is the guy for me. He's filling in these roles with Artemi Panarin, still in the league's COVID protocols. He's going to play with Zibanejad and Kreider, both 5-on-5 and with the man advantage. That's just too much ice time to play with those guys to not pick up something here. I also think you might want to consider looking at Alexis Lafreniere. Solely based on the fact that he's going to be in a top 6 role and it's going to cost you just $2,000. He got in with the second power play unit last night. Obviously not the same star-studded level there, but again, at $2,000, I mean, that saves you huge money to go all over the board to spend up, whether you want to go with Paul's incorrect goalie decision or, my take of taking Zibanejad as your top guy.
Well, let's go to the sports book here, and let's see how you guys feel about a goal-scoring prop that you like. Give me a goal-scorer one, AJ.
Well, obviously, I'll look at Zibanejad at plus 130 to grab a goal since I'm going to captain him tonight. And I know I said I wouldn't pay up for David, but when you look at the fact you'll actually get him at plus 120 on the DK Sportsbook, you get better value than even Leon Draisaitl. I think that makes him an intriguing option as well. And then, looking at a little bit further down the board, Adam Fox plus 340. I know he's generally more of an assist guy, but it's just really good value in a game that could be really high scoring for him to get one here.
Yeah, and Fox plus 2,000 for the first score. Paul, how about you? Goal scorer prop.
Well, have you noticed AJ's wardrobe has taken an uptick? He made a lot of money off my picks last year, and he's going to do so again if he listens closely. I already highlighted Hyman and Zibanejad as two likely goal scorers tonight. You can get them for 190 and 130 respectively. But another Ranger that I like is Chris Kreider for plus 130. Their first line left wing. And the other Oiler that might make sense is Tyson Barrie, in fact, who has been held scoreless in his last 3 games. He's their power play quarterback and will get chances to break that slide. He'll pay plus 390 if he gets a goal tonight.
Slate approved pick, gentlemen. Which bet is your favorite on the board for this one game on this 3rd day of January, 2022, Paul?
Well, I think AJ and I are on the same side of this one. I think these teams will trade chances, and that could lead to a high-scoring game with all the skill that's going to be on the ice, regardless of whether McDavid plays. That means I go to the alternate total goal line, my favorite part of this whole show, actually, when I get to play in this range. And I go for the plus 190 payoff when these teams combine for a plus 7.5 on the total goal line. Big part of this is the suspect goaltending of Mikko Koskinen or anybody else that the Oilers will throw in tonight. Koskinen's allowed 20 goals against over his last 5 starts, and Smith's only played once since October 19th, and he gave up four in that one. So they might be looking out for a goaltending help in the future, but tonight they got to throw one of these guys in the net. Likely going to be Koskinen the way it looks, and that's not a good sign.
AJ.
Yeah, I like targeting the total in this one as well. I'm also with Paul on the over here. Look, in terms of maybe a riskier option that I think could actually still hit, I like the Rangers to cover the puck line. You get plus 215. That's fantastic value. If you don't want to go that risky, I think it's a good spot to go Rangers on the money line at minus 105 because you don't give up that much juice. But yeah, I love the Rangers, plus 215 is just too good a value to pass up on a team that just won 4-0 last night, and they could certainly win by a couple of goals tonight as well.
All right, Paul, AJ, good stuff, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later this week. Let's see, we have another edition of The Swag coming up tomorrow morning, everybody, 11 a.m. Eastern time to noon. But right now, stay tuned for the Madden Sim. So that starts with the Titans and the Chargers at high noon. Then need you to check out the slate, 5 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon on YouTube, over on Twitch, on Twitter. Brendan Glasheen's going to have you with Jeff and Maddie. They're going to talk some more NFL, NHL, and NBA. Again, Happy New Year. Last day you can wish everyone a Happy New Year is today. So soak it up. Have a good one.